Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Idifico Insights podcast. Today we have with us Stokes McIntyre, who is the CEO of Mindforge, that he's going to tell us all about. Stokes and I met just a couple of weeks ago at the Built World's Future of Work conference. It was their first one, and a smaller crowd, which was awesome because we got to kind of meet everybody. So shout out to Built Worlds. Thanks so much for that. And Stokes, welcome. So glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on this podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive right in. So you started your career in filmmaking, and then you ended up in construction tech. So tell us about how that all evolved.
It's a strange journey, but it feels right. So, it started out really, I started out sort of around construction because I'm involved with a family business, and my dad started a captive insurance company 40 years ago or so. And so I grew up around that. There was around 40 members now. Back then there was maybe 20 members. These are large contractors. And so I grew up working around the business. One summer I filed claims reports, so I was looking at all the claims coming in, and unfortunately there were some pretty terrible accidents, and I would end up reading the files and kind of studying it, and it stuck with me. It was, kind of the dark side of construction, if you will.
Yeah.
So anyway, then I went about my life and ended up getting into media and starting a video production company in San Francisco. And did that for about 17 years and produced around 800 commercials and films, made a feature film. And then at some point, I think it was about 10 years ago, I just started talking to my dad, and we were talking about getting me back into the family business. And so started working back in the family business, and we started having conversations around the captive. Part of the captive with us insuring and underwriting these 40 members and being partners with them is working together to reduce losses. Unfortunately, these are top performing contractors, but they still see a number of deaths every year. We still see serious injuries and quality losses. So we were trying to uncover what's the next step. And really we started looking at that disconnect between the frontline workforce, the workers, and all the knowledge that sits in the trailer and in the home office. How do we get more information to the craft so they can make informed decisions about their work? And so when we started looking at how do we solve that, naturally technology came into the fore. And so really we decided to launch this company, and I took on trying to build a technology company that could overcome this challenge. So that's how I got here.
Yeah, you're quite the entrepreneur for, kind of just jumping right in and deciding I've never done this before, but seems easy. I don't know. What do you think?
I do have a problem with that. I do have a certain naivete that I think serves me and hurts me. Whether it be in the film business or whatever I've done, I kind of get excited about it and then walk way deep and get over my head very quickly and then try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
but this has been ongoing now for how many years?
So we've been working on this for 6 years now.
Yeah. So you haven't bailed for some other, shiny object somewhere else.
That's another quality. Could be good, could be bad, but I generally hang on till the bitter end. I made a feature film, and it took me 10 years to make. And so I didn't quit. It got to that point where you're telling people, yeah, I'm working on this movie, and at a party, everyone's like, cool, how's your movie going? And then 9 years in, they're just don't even want to talk to you about it because they think it's embarrassing,
But you can't. But it happened, right?
It did.
So
eventually.
Yeah, I think that is a good thing. That I've felt so similar lately about Idifico because we thought that we were going to launch in November, and we're now in March, and I'm certain that it's next week because I'm doing the work that is at the very end of this, right? But it feels that same way, kind of like I've been talking about it for too long, and people are like, "Are you sure this is gonna happen?" and but that's the reality of business, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, there's always the planning fallacy, right? We all think things are going to take a year or a couple months or whatever time frame you have in your mind. It often takes longer, and it reminds me of going on hikes. Like I used to love hiking, or I still do. And you go, you're like, let's go hike to that lake. It's going to be awesome. And the first 3 miles are awesome, and you're chatting, and then mile like 4 through 11 are horrible, and you're like, why did we do this? But you keep going, and you get to the lake, and it's beautiful. Yeah. So I do think there's, with starting any company, honestly, and particularly in this industry, it takes patience and perseverance. I think the challenge is like, what I've been grappling with, and I think we're beyond this now, but for so long it was like, is this the idea? Like, am I wasting my time? But everything I've listened and learned from is like, keep going, and look for if you're climbing Mount Everest, you got to know when to turn around, right? There is a turnaround point, but trying to identify that and being very clear about that is important, and not giving up too soon, because I have heard there's many stories of people going that extra mile where they thought, I should have given up, or I feel like I want to, and then they go that extra mile, and then it's very successful. So.
And it feels like it's overnight success, but it wasn't at all, right? Like, you've been around a long time.
Right. My dad likes to say he's an overnight success that took 45 years. So.
Well, good for your dad. Kudos to him, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell us more about Mindforge.
Yeah, Mindforge is, like I said, we're trying to solve this challenge of getting more information to the craft workers out there. So, and specifically, we're looking at the construction site kind of from the general contractor's point of view, where they have this very large project. They could have anywhere from 50 to 2,000 crew members on site. And there's a lot of work that's happening simultaneously, and all that work impacts one another. And then you have outside events like weather or other things that encroach on the job site. And so how do you get the workers the information so they can make really good choices? So, in a nutshell, Mindforge is a technology application that allows site leaders, superintendents, site safety managers, project managers to broadcast information to crews on the site, so they receive that on their personal mobile device. And also, we do provide training through our platform. So if you want to do a site orientation or even do a little refresher training on heat illness, you can do that through the Mindforge system. So that's what Mindforge is in a nutshell.
Yeah. And as a non-tech founder, how has it been for you building this?
It is, I do like technology, and in my film career, I was a video editor to start, and that involved a lot of technology. So I kind of have this very tertiary kind of knowledge of technology, but it is a little terrifying because I can't code anything. I can't wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I want to code this piece of the app. Yeah. So, the bottom line is I have to bring in, I've had to bring in really good people that I trust to guide me through this process. So that's really what I've leaned on. And that's what I did in the film business. I had, I couldn't do every piece of the production, so you have to bring in technicians that know their job and really trust and lean on them. So how have you found it? Do you have a technology background, or?
So I have a certification from UW in financial technology, which was very code heavy. It was all I did one summer was just code. And that does not come natural to me at all. It's not, language comes natural. And so understanding it as a language really helped. But it's still I'm definitely not an engineer, and I'm not a puzzle person, right? I am not one of those people who's yes, let me sit down and spend forever trying to find the right piece or whatever. My brain just doesn't work like that. So I've found it to be same, just finding people that I trust, and knowing, and just a lot of communication, right? The more communication than you think is necessary And that is really a lesson learned for me over the last year. It wasn't something I started with, and I've been really blessed to have a team that is trustworthy. Before I realized how important that was, you know, so I feel, like I said, that's been a huge blessing. But it has taken, you know, some very intentional, you know, kind of meeting scheduling and all of that on my part, because my co-founder is in the UK. Well, I have a couple of them, and they're international, so you know that's another story. But yeah,
Right.
So same as, and I imagine that having lived in San Francisco, you have no shortage of techies that you could turn to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it definitely did help. You know, I kind of the video company was in San Francisco, and a lot of the work we did was technology, like a lot of the videos we made.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot from that. But for this company, you know, I started it in Columbus, Ohio, and so a lot of the people I hired initially, they were from Columbus. But a lot of them have made their rounds through the Bay Area, right? A lot of the technology people I've worked with have worked in the Bay Area at some point in time. But really, it was trying to. I mean, the thing that made me nervous about this, and I'm in a business peer group, and there's just stories of you wade into these technology projects, and it's hard to kind of quantify how much work they're going to be.
Yeah.
And then the budgets triple. You know, you're behind schedule, and it's like, you know, like we're you know, in the construction industry, you can't start a building without a plan. I know some do, some may not, the plans aren't done, but for the most part, you have planned and spent months scheduling it, and you know, and try to keep to a very succinct schedule. There's kind of a thought in technology where it's like, we're going to just start, and we're going to have to figure it out along the way, and then, you know, I can't really give you a deadline. And I just can't abide by that. So I've tried to find people that are open to trying to plan it almost like a construction project, not be waterfall in the sense we're going to build it all, we're going to still be agile, but let's really avoid walking in and wading into very deep waters where we don't know where the end is, you know. So anyway, I've learned some hard lessons through the process. I mean, we've bitten off more than we can chew sometimes, but in the end, it's all worked out. So so far.
Yeah, it's awesome. So going back to safety, tell me more about the like safety aspect of what you're working on.
Yeah, so you know, when we started looking at how do we help workers in the field be safer for their benefit and the companies, right? I mean, lack of safety, obviously the individual is very involved with that because they're the ones hurt if they're injured. But also there's a terrible financial burden on the companies, right? So all in all, it's one of those areas where everyone benefits from a safe environment. The individual worker and the companies and the owners and everyone, the insurance companies, no one wants losses. So when we started looking at that, we started looking at like what makes training beneficial? Like what makes training actually valuable? Because there's training just to pencil whip, to show that you've done training. There's all that compliance, but if we really want to move the needle, what does that look like? And what we started to look at was training is only good as it's only as good as when someone actually deploys the knowledge they learn, right? Like if they take a ladder training 6 months ago and now they're having to choose the ladder for this particular task and they can't remember it and they can't deploy that knowledge, then essentially that training is worth nothing.
That's right. Yeah.
So what we focused on is trying to get small bits of information to the worker closest to when they need to deploy it.
Oh, okay.
Right? So like, at the end of the day, that is our mission, to give people information close to when they need to deploy that information, if that makes sense. So
it totally does, but how do you do that?
So our approach has been the messaging system and the broadcast system is really our answer to that. And there's an evolution of that we're trying to get into, and I'll talk about that. But people take, let's say, heat illness training, right? We all know we need to drink water, we need to get shade, we can be severely injured by heat. But in the heat of the moment, we're working hard. We kind of deprioritize, heat illness, safety, right? So if we can have a way for a site safety manager to broadcast information to every worker that morning and say, today is going to be very hot. Like, we need to take extra steps to drink water. We need to take extra steps to take breaks. And then even mid-morning broadcast another message and say, the temperatures are climbing, remember. So it's really, like, we can train people on heat and illness, but honestly, we just need to just keep reminding people, be their coach real time, and do that at scale. Like, we can't have someone walking around a site with 500 people on it. Hey, remember to drink water, remember. Just so virtual coaching in a way, and that's really how we're trying to solve the safety issue, is give people that information that will remind them. The other thing is, part of the reason why we started to see this gap in communication was we are privy to seeing all sorts of accidents, all the time through the insurance company.
Sure.
So many of the accidents were, you look at it, and there's many reasons, it's a very complicated series of things that occurred that caused this accident, but so often there was a component of it there was a missing piece of information that the worker didn't have. For instance, on the west side of the building, there are leading edges behind doors, okay? Do not go over there. We had a fatality where someone didn't know that, and they walked and opened a door and fell down a shaft. Yes, it was barricaded, but they didn't. If we had just broadcast out, hey, everyone, there are leading edges behind doors all over this job. Do not open doors, things like that. We've seen situations where people show up to a job to do rework on something, and they didn't know where to tie off. Like, no one gave them, so they tied off on the wrong thing, and then they fell, and the thing broke, and then they died, right? So it's just little things like broadcasting or making available little bits of information all the time that we believe will help reduce losses. So that's kind of how Mindforge plays into the safety initiative.
That's cool. And so it's usually the superintendent of the project that is sort of responsible for that, or it is sometimes the safety person, or?
It can be both, depending on the company and the job.
Sure.
So we've seen, there'll be some jobs have site safety managers where they're broadcasting this out regularly, weather events coming in, and sometimes it'll be the superintendent or both. So, we've seen project engineers, project managers, whoever the trailer wants to deem as whoever they want to assign permissions to broadcast.
Yeah.
They can do
so
that.
It could be multiples.
Yeah, it could be multiple people. I mean, and honestly, the CEO, like right now, one of our clients, they have 80 jobs in our system. The CEO of that company could say they have 7,000 workers loaded in. They could say, thank you so much. I mean, obviously these workers aren't employed, they're subcontractors, but a CEO could reach every worker, 7,000 people with a few clicks,
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, we're trying to talk to safety people and superintendents when it comes to the field. Traditionally, there's kind of like, hey, the subs do their thing. We don't want to tell them how to do their work. But as a GC, I mean, you are setting you're establishing the culture of the job site.
Absolutely.
You're setting the expectations. You're communicating the values, right? And so we're trying to talk about, hey, you're an influencer, right? At the end of the day, you're influencing decisions on this site. So in a way, we kind of look at ourselves as like an influencing tool, on the job site.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good way to put it. And I think influencer, feels very relevant to today's, times, right? So you get be a project influencer it's meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, maybe for some people that may be kind of a bad word. I don't know, but And I did a webinar on this. I mean, influencing is becoming a major marketing tool. I mean, it's highly effective, effective. So you don't have to influence in the way you might think influencing, but you as a subject matter expert, someone that, the field looks up to you, you're a superintendent that's been in the industry for 20 years, stuff, like leverage that influence for positively and for safety. And so that's what we're trying to, in many ways, that's what we're selling our customers more than technology, is just that approach.
Ability to influence. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how are things going? I mean, construction, I think we get a bad rap that isn't always deserved. But we haven't embraced technology. And my point and my perspective is that that's because technology hasn't really met us where we're at, right? And so it's the responsibility of tech companies or for people like us to just create tools that are useful, and then maybe we'll embrace it, right? But the saying goes, we're notoriously slow. So like, how are you getting people to to the tool and using it regularly?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the construction industry gets that rap, but I know in my production days in film, we had a lot of projects. You just don't have time to do new things. You're literally
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You're running from job to job, and if someone walks up to you and you say, "Hey, I want you to try something new," you're just like, "I'm just trying to get through today," So it's fair, right?
It is.
So my approach has been, one, patience, two, keep telling the story over and over. I mean, I look at myself as kind of a storyteller and influencer for this idea. And again, I'm not just talking about the idea of technology and the Mindforge platform. It's the idea of communication, influencing, driving decisions in the field. And so my approach is just to keep talking about it over and over, trying to broadcast it, use whatever budget we have to convey this story. And then there will be a day. So like a lot of the customers, our sales cycles are kind of long, right? Because we tell the story, maybe we talk to someone, and then something happens on their job that says, or in their company that's like, holy crap, like we've got to do something.
Yeah, that could have been the answer.
Yeah, like, there's that company and they did it and they do this thing, and actually now I understand, right? So it's telling the story all the time, conveying the value, and also visualizing it, because we are presenting something kind of new. I mean, it's hard to believe, but it's a little bit new of a way to work. And so people sometimes are like, why would I broadcast out to our jobs? Like, I don't understand. So showing people examples, here's what companies that have adopted are doing. Here's how this is what it looks like. And then waiting for that moment where they have the revelation on their own. Because I'm not a magician. Like, I'm not going to smoke and mirrors them into this, right? I'm not going to be like Jedi, hey, use Mindforge. So it's really, waiting for them to discover, wow, this is the tool we need. And it does happen. I had a company call us. My first conversation was 2 years ago with them. And they emailed me and was like, wow, I can't believe it's been 2 years, but we're ready to do this. So.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So here we go. Right?
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
I think companies are ready to adopt technology, but it has to be, like you said, we have a responsibility to just make it easy and simple. Like, we've just got to understand how they work. And that's been a challenge for me, because I've never been in a trailer. I mean, I've been in a trailer, but I've never worked in construction. So it just has to be. I showed the CEO, and he literally clicked, and he was like, no, this was a couple of years ago. He was like, no, it's already taken me too long. And I was just like, oh man, got to go redesign this thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But kudos for doing that. I mean, because a lot of people would just be like, well, I guess I'm out. So, staying true to the cause, I think, is important.
Yes. Saying that's a key piece of this, is knowing your mission, waking up every day and trying to get there. How do we get to fulfill our mission here? So. Yeah,
that's good. So big firms control, I mean, obviously, right? Like, and we do have a lot of really big firms in the industry that it
Right.
seems like they're kind of, they have the access to the talent, right? And the safety training and the project
Yes.
information. So how do you guys, or are you attempting to like kind of disrupt that dynamic at all?
So when you say big firms, you're talking about the technology firms like that service the industry, or more like the construction?
Yeah, I think more like along the lines of just the construction companies. And maybe a better way, like a better question is like there are big firms that are working on really, really large projects. Like for
Yes.
example, I think of the airport as one of them, and
Right.
so you have all of these different players. Like, have you ever considered this on like a project by project basis rather than on a GC by GC basis?
Absolutely. So yeah, with the big construction companies, we just signed up Skanska for a pilot. So they're maybe one of our biggest we're in a joint venture with Turner right now, or one of our contractors is in a joint venture with Turner. But the way we approach those very large companies is project by project. So
Yeah.
we it was a Skanska team on a job that found us and said, hey, we need this. It's a large hospital campus. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
So yeah, that is how we approach, because just going through corporate with a company like that is going to be years if ever it happens. So definitely, our system is so easy. It's not, people equate software to, oh wow, we just did a Procore implementation that took a year, and they equate you with that, right?
That's right.
So we're like, no, this is like signing up for your favorite social media app. It's literally easy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how we're trying to disrupt is we're priced for any size company, and we're super easy, and it's just choose to do it, put in your credit card, and then we'll have you up in a day. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. And so I know that you had kind of a ready-made, experimentation pool of contractors that you already
Yes.
kind of worked with. So what are the next steps? You have Skanska now. So like, what's your business development looking like?
yeah, so really, we have a flywheel. We use a little flywheel as our
Yeah.
inspiration, and it's really to get some key contractors to use our system. And we have had, some of the captive members adopt Mindforge, and that was fantastic early on. And then the goal is to amplify their positive feedback. So, and the feedback's been great. So generally when we sign up a contractor, we have a 90% retention rate. If they start using it, they generally don't stop. It's the churn, the people that churn just never start. Like, it's like they sign up for the gym and they never go
Yeah,
to the gym,
right.
right? But if you start going to the gym and you feel like, yeah, this feels good, then they continue, right? So our mission is to sign up contractors, get them set up, help them, help them feel the delight of using Mindforge, and then amplify their positive feedback through testimonials. And really, obviously we don't have a huge marketing budget, so it's just trying to put media into the market, go to conferences, get them talking to people, and encourage them to refer us. I mean, that really is the most powerful tool for us.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
we do traditional market. I mean, we do some marketing activities, but the fastest conversions are really people that say, "Hey, we heard about you." Like with one of the contractors, the subcontractor actually told the GC, "Hey, we were on a job with this, and it was awesome. Can you do it?" And so that got them going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Nothing better than that, right?
that's the dream, right? That's the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you see yourselves being like kind of like we're a safety company?
That's a great question. We used to, but really what we're focused on is what we call, and a lot of people call, operational excellence. So
Okay.
with better communication, we can improve safety, but also we can improve efficiency. Just to give you an example, one of the most common messages is, hey, this vehicle's blocking work, we need to get it moved. And so I know we're trying to get contractors to tell people where to park to start, but some people, don't park where they're supposed to, and they'll park their truck and it's blocking a delivery or blocking a crane moving. So now with Mindforge, they'll broadcast that out. And what we're hearing is they'll get cars and trucks moved very quickly, like way quicker, and they're not having to tow them, which really upsets the crew, right? If your cars are towed. So that's a little moment. It's like, maybe 20 minutes. But what's crazy is our goal is to save each worker 5 minutes a day. Like if we can save each worker 5 minutes a day because of something, if you add that up across a job that has 500 crew members on it for a year, that can be years of savings in time. That's like 10,000 hours you can save. That's right. So that's the productivity side, and then the quality side as well. Just installing work, people, making sure everyone has the specifications. Hey, broadcasting out. Remember, we're installing this material, not this material. Can save rework. So we're really trying to hit all aspects of construction. So,
how do you see AI playing a role in improving job sites? Do you think that's in our future?
I think it's going to be crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think across the board, from the communication standpoint, little things like some of our users are like, I don't know what to write. I want to send this message. I don't know what to write. I'm like, well, now you have ChatGPT, and we're going to start looking at building that into our system. I need to send us a reminder about ladders, like help me. I think that's the simplest thing, but knowledge base, I think we're moving into a knowledge, when we talk about deploying information right to when the user needs it, AI is going to, right now, workers aren't used to doing this, but I think eventually they will. It's like, I have a question, there's going to be able to be a knowledge base there that is specific to that job that a worker could look up anything, right?
Yeah,
it could be,
that's Trunk Tools.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what Trunk Tools is doing.
Yeah, I think it's just going to take time to train people to go there, right?
Yeah.
But they are in their personal lives, and I just think from schedule, like taking a set of plans, getting into pre-construction and budgeting it, scheduling it. I think all of that is going to be super efficient in terms of in terms of having AI really do the heavy lifting for us. You know. So those are the areas I think the AI. I just think overall we're going to be way more efficient. There's going to be less risk, less ambiguity with AI helping us to kind of determine what is the very complex path through this project and how we get it done. So
yeah, I think it's going to be amazing too. But I do have to say, so the process that I've been going through for my podcasts is I have chat. Deep research, go through and like research the individual that I'm interviewing.
Oh God!
And then I take that and I cut and paste it into regular chat, which knows Idiffico really well and knows me. Every day, right? And so I have to say that this is the first time that I'm looking at the questions and I'm like, I don't think it got it right for you.
Really?
I don't. Like the question was big firms control access to talent, safety, training, and project information. How does Mindforge disrupt that power dynamic? Yes. And that is, to me, that's not an accurate question for what you do. So it's kind of an interesting, which is why I went back to my question about the airport, because that was one that was already in my head, like thinking about these very complex, often public projects, right? That doing it on a project by project basis, just in the same way that Idiffico is like helping the industry be more project based instead of more company based.
Yes.
And like that's the hope eventually, is to change it such that it just makes more sense for what we do. So I think that what AI was trying to do was like take our two like things that I think about a lot and like sandwiching them together and in a question that to me didn't make sense. So I don't know. It's kind of like a fun experiment to go through in real time.
Yeah, what's kind of cool about it is it creates a question you may not have come up with, and it creates a conversation, whatever it may be. Because when I read it, that was the only question I was like, I'm not totally sure what big firms are. But I did key in on the disrupt part, and I think I was maybe thinking big technology firms, and I was sort of thinking, well, we're trying to disrupt by being hyper affordable. Like we want every type of contractor, because a lot of times the big safety softwares and all the content, they're very expensive, and so really, if you're a small contractor with 30 people, like you can't.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have a contractor here in Columbus that has 30 employees, and they use us. They use us all the time, and it's very affordable for them. Mm-hmm. But going back to what you're doing, I mean, I do think that, the film industry is very much what you're proposing to the industry. It's a lot of freelancers that are specialized in certain areas. Hey, maybe one producer does car commercials really well. They're going to do all the car ads, right? And everyone's moving around, and there's very, like, production companies, which are basically the same thing as a GC, are very small. Like they may do huge work, but they have a team of 5 people in the office, and they freelance everything out because they're trying to get, specialists that do this certain thing.
Right.
And I think that's what you're proposing, right? I mean, let's be agile. Let's bring the right people on for these jobs that know what they're doing in a certain area.
Yeah, this morning I was at an event, and there was an individual who he's built aquariums, and it's like, okay, how many aquariums can be in Seattle? But he's built aquariums. So that's like an amazing skill. And there are aquariums all over the US that need to either be built or remodeled or, whatever the case may be. And so, I think that's such a cool, like, potential, he works for a company, loves them, he's happy, but, it's such a niche skill,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, especially as architecture gets very, as I understand it, the architects are coming up with really creative ideas, right? And some of them present, like, glass, big challenge. So who's dealt with glass, like big glass projects,
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting what you're doing. I know it works well in the film industry, so.
I do think that it's going to work really well. We're at this place where we're just like, we want the tool to be out so people can experiment with it, and
right.
And we also, it's a network effect, and we'll have a flywheel. We'll have many flywheels, actually,
Yes.
So yeah. What is that? What is the book The Flywheel comes from?
Oh my gosh, I don't even.
I read it in college. I'm trying to think. Good to Great?
Yes, was maybe Good to Great.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
So.
Where, it's a good concept for sure. I think Jeff Bezos is all about the flywheel.
I think he's all about it. We implemented something called EOS. I don't know if you've heard of it, Entrepreneurial Operating System.
No.
Kind of a cheesy name, but it's a framework for startups, and even big companies can use it, but it's a 2-year training program where you get into the whole, it's, you have a way of running your meetings, you have a way of organizing your quarter, you have a way of organizing your year and setting your values. It's a whole program, and
that's cool.
Yeah, and then the implementer helps to bring in certain components, and they brought in the flywheel. That was kind of how we got introduced to it. But they're all little business tools,
Yeah. Yeah, I have a business degree, so it makes sense that was one of the requirements there.
Yes.
That and all about servant leadership, which I've been thinking about that book quite a bit as I move into, I have a new team member and figuring out how to bring this virtual team together and, how to serve people while leading. So it's a good book.
It is. Yeah, no, I think, leadership has been, I joined something called Vistage, and so it's just, leadership is its own skill. That's what I've learned. It's entirely different thing, right? I mean, I come from in the film side of things. Like I was a craft person, right? I was doing a craft, and leadership kind of was a component of that. But then in this role, I've just had to really focus on emotional intelligence, staying calm, like thinking clearly. I mean, it's just a whole another ball of wax, honestly. I don't know if you feel that way, but.
How many people on your team?
So right now we have 10 team members.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have always been a solopreneur.
Yeah.
So, I've had lots of people around me who either I influence or they, like they influence me, and, and lots of great people in my sphere that way, but never been like responsible really for anyone other than my family, which I raised. And
that's a big job.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I do view it that way. I think it's challenging in business because family is different. It's different, and I want to respect appropriate boundaries in that way.
Right.
But like I had my co-founder from Colombia came to America and visited and stayed at my house, and we cooked together, and then I had my family over, and she came up afterwards and gave me this hug, and I just said love you because it so naturally flows from me, and I'm not sorry about that. But then I was like, oh God, you don't have to say you love me back, I'm so sorry, you know what I mean? But like it just felt natural to say. And she's in her late 20s, and I'm an old lady now, so it's just it felt right. And it wasn't awkward, but it just is kind of like those moments where you're like, be professional, but then like I think people are so they so badly want to be seen. They just want to be seen, you know what I mean? And appreciated. And
it's just recognize, seeing them, recognizing them, and being authentic, I think, is a key part of it. So if you're authentic, you is saying I love you, and that's maybe I wouldn't do that, maybe it's weird, but
I know. And that's the thing is like, I can't have a double standard. Like I don't want a dude hugging me and saying he loves me. I can guarantee you that is a hard pass for me.
yeah, that'd be weird. But that's authentic to you, and it's a different, we all have our different places, right? So I think leadership is being authentic and all that. So, obviously there's some boundaries, but yeah, I'm sure they took it very well. I'm sure
she was very sweet. It didn't feel awkward. Just afterwards, it occurred to me, and so it's a lesson. It's just one of those things you go, okay, like.
There was a time so when I was shooting a lot of these commercials in a period of time. We have actors and the crew, and for so many years you rap and then everyone hugs, like, oh, we did this together, this is awesome. Well, there was a period of time where you didn't really want to hug anyone. It was like hugging is done. I don't know no more hugging on the job, right? So then I remember I was so confused. I was like, okay, no hugging. And then we were on set, and this lady's like, why aren't you hugging me? That's so rude. And I was like, oh, okay, if you give me permission. And I hug. And then I go to hug the person next to her. She's like, I'm good. I don't need to be hugged. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I just want to say, I'm just going to make an announcement ahead of time. If anyone wants a hug, just come hug me. But I'll be here. I'm open. If you want to hug, great.
Even that, it could be,
boom, see, I'm already, no.
Yeah, it's just a weird world, right? You're like, free hugs, and people are like, no thanks, but like.
Hey, everyone just to say, I'm open to hugs if you want. Weird, fired, not happening. Yeah. But
I just think, I appreciate what you said about being authentic, and, I think there's I think you're absolutely right. Like that there are some people that I hug, and like some people that I'm like, I don't even want to be near you, let alone hug you. You know what I mean? Right. So
that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. So what has been your biggest lesson in leading this company? What's the big takeaway for you so far?
There's so many. Biggest takeaway for me is, I think just sometimes I jump in. This is me. This is my personal thing. I jump in really fast to certain things. Like, hey, let's build this. And I just need to. I'm a shoot from the hip person. So, and that has gotten us into not terrible trouble, but some stuff we have to unwind from. So, I'm trying to be way more thoughtful in terms of just how I approach things, from a leadership standpoint, and not take my team on a ride that, it's hard to unwind from. That being said, we also have to jump in sometimes to be a little fearless and go after some things, and we may fail, right? So that's one thing I've learned. And then I think the second thing is just going after it, and not, sometimes you just feel kind of you feel kind of alone, right? You feel kind of like this is a lonely event. I feel like I'm getting up every day and trying to sell. I've gone to a native tribe. I'm trying to sell them some religion, and I'm going to get speared on the beach. There's that story of that guy who tried to go somewhere and he got speared right on the beach. And so I think just staying positive, people are ready and open to listen to new things. So don't get down, just stay positive, tell your story, and find people that resonate with it. So those are two big things. I mean, there's a lot of little things in there, business things I've learned, but at the end of the day, those are two really large things that I've taken away from this whole experience. Mm-hmm.
That's good. I relate to that, like jumping into, and like I'll have an idea, and it's always been like, okay, I have to do the idea right now. Like I have to move on this.
Yes.
And like realizing, no, you don't. Like if it's a good idea, it'll stick around and it'll grow in your head, and you can think through what the consequences of implementing that idea could be. And, if it really is good, like you don't have to be quite so fast at,
yes,
at doing
let
it.
Let it marinate. Like
that's right.
Sleep on it. Yeah.
Yes. Maybe for a week at least. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Let's see. I've got my questions over here. So fast forward in 10 years.
Yes.
How will technology have reshaped the construction industry?
I think at a high level, I think we're going to find that, who knows exactly what's going to be happening technologically. We know AI is going to be involved, but I just think we're going to be incredibly productive. I mean, there was that McKinsey report that, people tout. They're like, the construction industry is the only industry that has actually, gone down in productivity. I think that's going to turn around. And you could argue many reasons for that. I mean, we could go into that, but moving forward 10 years, I think we're going to leverage technology to reduce ambiguity on the job in terms of the planning and dealing with, physics and how jobs work. And there's going to be better communication. There's going to be potentially better planning, tighter planning, no ambiguity, less risk. So I think that's going to culminate in, one, we're going to build really cool stuff because more of our money is going to go less towards waste and more towards putting together really, really cool structures and roads and things that we want to live and work in and be in. And I think that the work-life balance for the people that build this is going to be better. Because I think right now, if you go on, I like going on Reddit, and I like reading what people say in the industry, and people are just burnt. I mean, I would say most people feel burnt,
Yeah.
And so because these projects, you're working so hard for so long. And so, and I don't want to generalize too much. I know there's people that they love, everyone loves their job. That's why they're in it. But there's just going to be a way to have more of an outside life when you're a superintendent or someone who's deep in a job, because I think we're just going to be more efficient. So now those are kind of, I think, the two big outcomes: really awesome, cool spaces and like work-life balance. I think are going to be the result of technology, hopefully.
Wow, I love that perspective, and I hope that's true. I think it's gonna take like if we could call us sort of the prop tech subculture of Contech or prop tech, or like, I think it's going to take us getting out there and being more intentional about like getting the tools in the hands of people, and getting out of our little local bubble that construction is local, right? But it doesn't have to be. We can do this. It was so fascinating this morning. I was at NAOP, and are you familiar with NAOP?
I'm not.
Okay, so it's the National Association of Industrial and Office Properties.
Okay.
Probably it's the foremost sort of commercial real estate in like industry organization in Seattle, certainly, and in other areas, but we have a great chapter. And the conversation on the stage was like generations, and then how they're viewing return to work, and how it was fascinating because they started the panel talking about how construction is local, and you have to be here, and you have to be on site. And the same exact people that were saying that by the end of the conversation had all admitted in one form or another that they were working on projects outside of Seattle, that they were flying there, that they were working from home or from Seattle, but managing a project elsewhere. And I'm thinking, why are you saying construction is local? It's not, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, it does for many of the workers who are obviously building the building, but so much of that work doesn't happen on site. And so I think like getting to a place where we admit that, and then where you, for example, can have access to the GCs in Seattle, which there are many, because as you can imagine, I mean, with the most cranes in the sky for the last 13 years or whatever, not the last like 2, but previous to that, of course, because of Amazon.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, I know a million GCs. Let me just tell you, like I feel like I'm not exaggerating. Yeah.
It's shocking how many.
Yeah. And I worked with many of them as a recruiter, so so we need to connect on that too. Like if you want intros.
Oh, I'd love that, of course.
But anyway, I mean, the point is, it's time for us to go national and like get the tools in the hands of the people and make it happen, so that we can be more effective with our time and give people their some of their day back. You know. Yeah. Just, the efficiency thing. And I am hearing more contractors work, like this contractor that's in our captive. They are doing, and a lot of them are, they're expanding beyond beyond where they are today, right? And a lot of it is due to technology. And the biggest challenge with that is just the culture piece. Like, how do you, spread your culture and make sure everyone's doing the work according to your expectations? But I agree. I think we need to leverage resources from wherever. If someone knows how to, like you said, knows how to do aquariums, that's on the East Coast or whatever, let's get them working on a job on the West Coast. How do we figure that out and leverage expertise, because that's going to make things more efficient, right? That's right. Yeah. Well, lots of good ideas. Well, Stokes, thank you so much for joining today. Really good chatting with you and learning more about Mindforge. Where can we find you?
Just, you can type, go to your browser, type in Mindforge, search it, Mindforge, it should come up, or just go to mindforgeapp.com, and that's where you can find us. So,
all right, super.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Stokes.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was a really fun conversation, so appreciate the opportunity.
All right, well, we'll see you again. See you again soon.
We'll circle back.
All right, circle back. I love it. Thanks.